Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of JakeSick.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. If you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and please give us a 5-star rating. If you're listening to us on our audio platforms, please give us a 5-star rating and please download this episode and more episodes. It is the AGT Season 19 postseason, and I thought of the three best people to talk with me about this. They are the hosts of AGT Time Podcast. It's been around since 2016, and they've been giving their hot takes all season long. So please help me welcome Cody Patterson, Ryan, Minnesota Ryan Rivard, and Stephen Michael to the podcast.
Hey, Jacob. Thanks for having us.
Cody, you're so welcome. I got to deliver the favor because you had me on earlier twice this season to talk about the results and also one of the finals. So I got to have you in here. I got to return the favor.
Yeah, excited to be here. Yeah, absolutely.
All righty, guys. Before we get started with our unpacking of season 19, I would love to know how you each got interested in AGT.
I've been watching AGT probably since season 2. So I started season 2. I watched it with my dad some, and then I watched up through season 7. Took a break for 8, 9, 10, and then came back for season 11, and I've been here ever since.
All righty.
All right, so I've actually been watching it since season 1 when Regis Philbin was hosting way back when, which didn't last too long. So I mean, it's been a good. I've seen it evolve from when it was Pierce, Brandy, and the Hoff to Howie's first season, and up to the amazing Gabrielle Union season that we had up to now. So I mean, it's been a very good, interesting road to say the least.
Absolutely. I'm an OG myself, Steven. So typically we've seen so many incredible acts, so many incredible hosts, and RIP to, of course, the great Regis Philbin and Jerry Springer.
Definitely.
All righty, Ryan, your turn.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm the odd man out in this group because I'm kind of more of a newer age, I guess, AGT fan. The first time I actually found AGT was I was just scrolling through my phone, finding like clips, and I actually came upon Sal Valentinetti's Golden Buzzer.
Wow.
Fell in love with Sal. I didn't watch his season, but just loved him as an act. And I was like, what is this show that allows all these acts to do all these different things? And then kind of got hooked from there. I would say I think my first season was Brandon Leake's season. I think that was when I first watched fully through from start to back. But pretty much since that time, I've just been hooked. And I love my statistics. These guys will speak for that. I love ranking all the acts. I love comparing them. But I am definitely more of a newer age AGT fan. I only know Terry Crews as my host. I don't know the old days. I don't know the old judges. I have always been Simon. It's always been Howie. It's always been Heidi. For me, but I'm loving it still the same, but it's super fun to chat with everybody and kind of hear the older days about AGT and when it was good back then.
I'm so sorry. It's amazing to see everything that happened with AGT and the history of it. Is just amazing how it's evolved over the show for just a quick minute stop to actually having some serious stakes in the competition. And look at all the people right now in Vegas: Terry Fader, Tapeface, Matt Franco, all these incredible acts, not to mention even people who didn't win, like Jabberwockies.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And that's one thing I will say that AGT has over some of these other shows like American Idol or The Voice, is you see the success of these acts, whether it is, as you mentioned, Vegas, Tapeface or Shin Lim or Terry Fader, who's probably the most successful of all of the AGT acts. And then you have Grace Vanderwall, who's going to be in a movie coming up pretty soon. And obviously she has music out as well. So, I mean, you can follow the careers of a lot of these acts. And I mean, Ryan, you mentioned you're at the COVID season, so I feel bad.
I'm sorry you had to deal with that, Ryan.
It's all right. I made it through, and now we're in the good spot.
Yeah, but I mean, Brandon Leake, the winner, Brandon Leake of that season. I mean, I was telling these guys during the finale, when we record our podcast for the finale, I was like, I never thought that we would ever have a spoken word winner of AGT, and now Brandon Leake is doing commercials, and you see him doing well for himself. themselves. I mean, like, you see these acts doing well, and I think that's one thing that AGT does over a bunch of other shows, is you can follow the success of these acts. And that's why you're seeing, Jacob, as I mentioned, we had the first season were just Americans auditioning. Now you're having acts from all over the world, and that just shows the the level of popularity that AGT has.
Absolutely. And I got to say this, it's amazing to see the evolution of this show. And on top of that, it's never thought that I had the honor and privilege to interview some of these acts, and I know you guys have done as well. I'm gotta say, I never thought I would develop a friendship with my friend Brandon James from season 8, and who's about ready to headline to make his Carnegie Hall debut with his husband James Clark and with Effie Passero from Idol's ABC first season. So, or seeing Voices of Service when they were in Kansas City, and same with Reacher. So it's amazing that I've got to build these friendships and get to know these people.
Yeah, we've had the great opportunity of talking to several different ones, the clairvoyants. We talked to Brandon James as well. So it's just great. The friendship that Christy Sellers and Jay, one of our other hosts, has built. So yeah, it's great to hear the stories that these acts have told, their experiences on the show, what they've done after the show, getting to come back and perform again on the show. It's a real wonderful thing, and real kind of eye-opening of all the things that they've had to go through.
Absolutely. So I want to guys put you on the spot before we dive into season 19. What are some of your favorite seasons? Mine is 4 because of the likes of Barbara Badilla. I gotta say season 8 because of Brandon James and being in Radio City. 8 and 9, and then 11 and 13 are my top 5.
Yeah, probably one of my favorites is 11. 11's just had such great acts. AGT Commentator and I have gone back and re-watched all the finals from season 11. It's so amazing with the different ones that we've had on there. Clairvoyance is one of my favorite acts of all time. I really enjoyed season 7, even though we had the Olate Dogs win, but some amazing things came out of there with Tom Cotter and the Earth Harp and Joe Castillo. So those are just kind of 2 of my favorites, but it's really hard to kind of pin down because there's so many different types of talent almost every season. You can have some that you really don't like, but it's hard to really pick out some of your favorites.
Yeah, I would agree with Cody. I mean, like, season 7 for me is probably one of the best seasons in a very, very long time of the older editions. Getting into the newer editions, I would say 11 and 13 are probably my top. Those would be my top 3. And then obviously you have Cody Lee obviously winning, and his story and just everything he was able to overcome, and having a really good talent and showing you don't let your disability defy who you are. And I mean, that message alone and seeing him win was amazing. And then you had Shin Lim, who is ruined magic for me on the show now, because the dude is like one of the best magicians in the world. And so, I mean, like, yes, I mean, like, and I think I may be wrong. I mean, we'll see what comes in the future, but I think possibly seasons 11 and 13 are probably like peak AGT talent if we're talking about like everything that's come after that. So yeah,
absolutely. Okay, Ryan.
Yeah, I was gonna say this will be fun for me because none of the ones that I watched were any of those seasons.
Your sample size is pretty small.
Exactly,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I would say for me, I think my clear favorite is season 17. I not only was that Avery Dixon season, and both Cody and Steven know how much I've loved Avery Dixon. Got a chance to meet him thanks to the AGT Time Pod. But that was also the Mayas season, and the Mayas are one of my favorite acts of all time. Obviously, I think in my mind, they're probably my favorite winner of being a fan of watching AGT. So I think that's my favorite season. But biasly, I had a lot of fun this past season, partly because of the fantasy league that we run. So it might be a little bit of a biased competition there between the two. But I think season 17 was the best one that I personally watched.
All righty, we'll get into your draft later when we talk to 19. But so let's start at the very beginning of 19. Yeah, the judges' auditions. 9 golden buzzers. What were you thinking when you saw all those golden buzzers?
I know Cody loved it.
Yeah, the number of golden buzzers has gone up steadily over the last few years. But if you look back at seasons like when it started in season 9, 10, 9 was kind of the experimental year. 10, it really kind of started at that point. But it's slowly increased. We had the judge cuts where the judges would get golden buzzers. So ultimately, like at the end of those auditions and judge cuts, we have almost 9 anyway. But for the judges themselves to give away 2 golden buzzers and then to kind of give Terry the shaft and not let him give away 2, I felt he kind of got a raw deal on that.
I agree completely. I definitely think Terry should have gotten another one.
Yeah.
Definitely. So for those who don't know, and Jacob, you might know this, and I know these 2 guys know this because I've spent it on our podcast before, but this actually, the reason why this started is because in Britain's Got Talent, Bruno Tonioli, who was a new judge at the time, did not know the rules. And he just hit the buzzer just to hit it. And that
Ghetto Kids, I remember that.
Yeah, and so that act ended up getting it. And so then he didn't realize, I wasn't supposed to do that. So that's the reason why now there's 2 golden buzzers per judge because of that reason. And because, so that's the reason why. And so then they brought it here to America for our version. And what people don't know, and I don't know if Ryan or Cody know this, but in Britain, Simon's son got a golden buzzer. Like Simon brought his son onto the judging table and gave his son the opportunity to hit the golden buzzer.
Absolutely. If I remember correctly, Stephen, it was because the audience would not leave this act alone. They were a phenomenal Japanese act.
Yes.
From what I remember. And they had both Alicia's daughter and Simon's son present.
Exactly. Yep. So, I mean, it just goes to show you like how elements of the British version are slowly making their way into the American version, and honestly, all Got Talent shows around the world. So, I mean, like, is it a bit of overkill? I would say yes, because the golden buzzer, in my opinion, Cody, you said it yourself, when it first started, it was meant for those really special acts that you thought were just absolutely incredible. And now they're getting out like Halloween candy to everybody. Yeah. So, I mean, like, it's not as special anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in that same boat. As someone who became a fan of the show because of golden buzzers, like at first I was like, oh, maybe there's some good to this. And I personally, I'm not as mad about the audition golden buzzer increase. Like, it is what it is. But to me, I have been so adamantly against the live show golden buzzers. To me, that is something I really don't like. I don't think they're fun. I actually think it hurts the act at the end. And none of our live show golden buzzers got into the top 5, if I can remember right. So to me, that is something I'll stand on, as I do not like those. But I think that they want clips. I think they want stuff that can pop up on YouTube, can pop up on all these shorts, reels. And I think they're going to keep increasing golden buzzers if they can to do that. But just keep them in the auditions, please. Don't get them out of the live shows.
Or how about this idea? Bring back the judge cut.
Yes.
Yeah. I would pay money to see the Hawk get one. I would move heaven and earth to have Sharon Osbourne get one. See Sharon Osbourne get one. I know it may not happen, but it'd be interesting to see Gabrielle and Howard get another one as well. But however, those are like chances of that are like snow freezing in you know where.
Yeah, we're big proponents of judge cuts. We really want to bring the judge cuts back. It's kind of a special place in our heart to see that, and we don't think they're going to listen to us as the viewers. We have this conspiracy theory that production does listen to our podcast, but that's one piece of the podcast that they completely choose to ignore. So.
I agree. I love A. Fremantle and I love everything, but the judge cuts. Oh my! See, Cody, Stephen, you and I both know those were make or break moments. Mm-hmm. Those were amazing. Piff the Magic Dragon eating a sandwich as Neil Patrick Harris pressed the golden buzzer.
Yep.
I gotta say,
Sophie Dawsey.
Sophie Dawsey with Reva's actions speak louder than words. George Lopez giving Maleva with their golden buzzer. Olivia Munn surprising Angel Sue Fink in Angel City Corral with mic issues, when in reality she hit it. And then, of course, the beginning of The Unbeatables' dominance on the AGT with Dwayne Wade's first golden buzzer.
Yeah. And my favorite also, Neo hitting the golden buzzer for John Durenboss. Definitely was one of my favorites as well. And Cody and Ryan, you know how much I love John as an actor and as a person. So, I mean, like, that was one of my favorites as well. But yes, I think we're all in agreement. Bring back judge cuts, which probably won't happen. But I mean, we'd love to see it back, because I think it hurts the acts more than helps them, because you get one performance in the audition and then boom, you're in the live shows. And then you really haven't really had a chance to evolve your act or get critiqued on it.
And we've seen it this past couple seasons. We've seen why judge cuts is needed or needed.
Yeah. And losing judge cuts, kind of one of the biggest acts it's hurt is the comedians, because for comedians, we need an opportunity to really learn them. We need to know how they the jokes that they tell, and then they need that repetition. And so in season 15, when they didn't have an audience, of course that killed comedians for the live shows. And in the last few years, it's just the comedians have struggled. Fortunately, we did have one in the finals in season 19. We did have 2 in the live shows, but that's an act that we need to be able to promote more on AGT, is the comedian, stand-up comedian.
100%. Okay, guys. So I got to look at all. So we have 9 golden buzzers, and we have to bring them on. We'll talk about the live golden buzzers. 13. So which member of the on-air team had the best golden buzzers and why?
I'd have to look at my list here. Give me just a moment. But I think it was Howie had the best one, didn't he? Howie had some pretty good golden buzzers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brent Street was good. Who was his other one? I forgot who the other one was.
Air Footworks was phenomenal.
Air Footworks, yeah. Well, yeah, the controversial one of him and Simon hitting it at the same time, what it looked to be. Air Footworks was amazing. They kind of messed up in the finale, but we can get to that later. But I mean, Air Footworks, Howie had some good ones. Simon's also had, I think one of them was good. Terry, I've learned more, was good too. But I mean, like, if we're talking judges, I think Howie, definitely. I
think Howie, despite Reed and not, I kind of think judge cuts should have been good for Reed if he did, so he could have one. But otherwise, Howie, it was this season. Howie, this year has been Howie's year. 2024 has been Howie's year, especially with the Ramadani brothers in winning Fantasy League, stealing Cody Lee in Fantasy League from Simon, and now this. But however, we got to talk about Heidi because she finally won. Her act finally won, and I never thought I would see the day that one of her acts would win.
Yeah. Historically, Howie's had the best golden buzzers, not just from what America thinks, but finishing the show. Howie's had statistically the best golden buzzers. But it was kind of fun to see, Heidi get her first win from a golden buzzer.
Yeah, I mean, I said it before on the show with these guys, but when you saw Richard belting out Journey's "Don't Stop Believing," and then that went viral as much as it did, I was like, oh, there's no way this is, we were still in auditions. Like, there's no way he doesn't win if he can manage to put together some more amazing performances. And that's exactly what ended up happening. I mean, it's had the feel of old school AGT, Jacob, when it had guys, like Michael Grimm, or, guys, just regular dudes who have pull them out of some school in Indiana, and he's a regular nice guy.
I gotta say this: Richard Goodall has a million times better than Kevin Skinner, and Barbara Badilla was robbed.
But yes, I mean, it's had a feeling of old school AGT, and I think that's what originally this show was made for. It was made for acts like Richard, acts like Kevin Skinner, and acts like that, where you don't know who, they don't have a background in what they do, or they haven't been on other shows before, like some of these other acts we have now. It is made for guys like that, like Richard, and acts like that. So I'm happy to see him get his win.
Yeah. And I'm happy for Heidi, but this is one of those ones where if you didn't hit the golden buzzer for Richard in this season, the judges just would have messed up. Like this, again, like we're saying, that this was really like the soul of AGT. This is kind of what the golden buzzer is made for. And as someone who got to watch Sal kind of become a big thing in a similar way that Richard got to do it, like I always love Richard for that similarity of it. But yeah, this is good for Heidi, but this was pretty much a slam dunk from the start of this, was kind of sitting there for her win to have this year.
I agree. The last time that we almost had one back in season 16, especially with, if Nightbird was able to be healthy enough to compete, it would have been a steamroll. However, that made season 16 more exciting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I know Dustin Tavella is not a big fan. A lot of fans don't like Dustin, but I liked him, and I thought that I'd rather have seen him or Jimmy or even World Taekwondo have the opportunity to win. So, and by the way, my acts to watch so far this decade, 3 of them have won: Dustin, Maya's, and now Richard.
mean, Steven loves Dustin Tabella. It's one of his favorite acts.
Alrighty, guys, we got to talk about finally one of the answers to our. Before we get started, I would love to learn about the draft because everyone knows about. And for those of you who will listen to the podcast, if you guys go on my blog and before the live show starts, I reveal my acts to watch this season. But you guys do it differently, and I think I gotta say, didn't Fremantle steal your idea? It felt like Fremantle stole your idea.
Yeah, so Jay and I started this way back when he and I started podcasting, and it was just the two of us, and we just went back and forth and did it and picked all the acts, and then we brought an AGT commenter on, and that expanded it to 3, which made it a little more challenging, and AGT commenters won 2 of those trophies. We then brought, I think Steven, you then came in, and I think we had an odd number maybe at that point. Even we had 4 people, but there was an odd number. But then Ryan came on board, and we're like, we got to bring Ryan in. Ryan's a stats guy. He knows how to rank these acts. He's very passionate about this, so we have to bring him in. And so we brought in the 5. And fortunately, AGT in their brilliance made it where we had, at least last year, an even number. And this year we didn't have an even number, so we had to change it out. But it's a standard fantasy football league type draft, and so we take the acts, we throw them on a draft board, we randomize the selection, and we just do a snake. So I think it was this year. It was me, then commenter.
It was me. It was you, me, and it was Steven, and then commenter, then Jay.
Yeah, and then we just snake it back around, and we go all the way until the end, and we have our draft teams. Once we have our teams, then we assign point values to how we advance. So if you move on to the next round, you'll get a point. With the golden buzz, with the live show golden buzzers, it added something new this year. So we made it the equivalent of if you moved on from the quarterfinal to the semifinal to the final, you just automatically got 3 points right off the bat. So if you go from quarterfinal, semifinal, you get a point. If you go semifinal to final, you get 2 points. And then within the top 5, then we we double the point values 5 through 1 at that point. And then whoever comes out with the most points, that's our champion.
That's good. That's good. I think that's amazing. That's amazing draft. And I got to say this, if you want to hear some intense conversations, go listen to the draft round.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. We have a lot of fun with our draft. As they can attest, I'm probably the big wild card on it because I'll he and haw on some things of how much I love a certain act and then go completely in the opposite direction and pick an act. Ryan's very analytical about who he wants, knows exactly what he wants. Go listen to our finale draft. Ryan gives a great explanation of how he broke it down and how he's been studying for it. And was it last year? Was it season 18? You had the viral big board.
Yes, did not work well.
So he looked at the acts. He looked at the acts to see who's getting the most views on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. Steven's got his strategy.
Hasn't worked.
As a strategy. We're not sure what it is yet, but he's got one. And then commenter and Jay also have their strategy, and Jay does some different things. Jay looks at it based on whether he likes the act or how he thinks America's going to do it. So he's kind of gone back and forth, and it's fun of how you want to look at it. Do you want to pick acts that you enjoy watching, which may not necessarily be what America enjoys, or are you going for the win and you want to actually pick what you think America is going to choose? Sometimes we get it completely wrong, and you may not actually enjoy that act, but it's a lot of fun. Talking about your act, tweeting about your act, going against the other guys about your act. We have a lot of fun with it. You guys want to add anything to that?
You did a great job explaining that. There's not a whole lot of gaps to add in, but it's a fun thing. It's so funny as a listener of the podcast when they were doing the draft before I got to join. Like, I was like, oh, no, this isn't going to be that hard. Like, I'm just going to pick the acts that I know are going to work or whatever. And I came in my first season and was last place by large margin. So like, I think what's the fun about it is it really challenges you to think about, what you like, but also what America likes. And it's kind of a fun book because it changes from year to year. You kind of have to consider what's going on in the world. You know, what people want to watch right now, what won last year. Like there's all this fun stuff that goes into it, that it makes draft day so fun because you think you know what's going to happen. And then just there's wild cards thrown out. It's honestly been really fun to also see what all the other guys like. Because, great thing about AGT is we're not all going to like every act. Mm-hmm. And you guys all love acts that I don't. And then they end up making the finals and I get to learn that maybe I should have given that act more a chance. So it's like, that's the real fun of it, is you get to really dive deep into our opinions and what we like and why we like it and see the generational differences. And it just makes it so much more fun to watch the show.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to what the guys have said, it makes it a lot of fun. And I mean, for me, I was like, a singer has not won and since Cody Lee, and America's not big on singers anymore. And a singer ends up winning the season. So I mean, like, it worked out very well for me, as you guys know. But I mean, just saying, like, if it is fun to see, and that's what I do. I'm thinking here, like, okay, this is the acts that I like, but also like, here's how the history has gone on the show, where this act usually doesn't do very well, and this is the one season where a singer wins, or you have like not as many comedians on the show who didn't do well this year. Learn more with the exception of making the top 5. But I mean, like, so it's just a lot of fun to go back and forth. But today is September 29th. Season 19 just ended about less than a week ago. So I'm going to go on a limb here and say that season 20 is going to be the year I finish the top 2 at least. We'll see.
I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, Jacob, it's just something that it allows us to get a little more invested in the show. So it's not just something we're passively watching and then you turn it off and you go on doing something else. It's something we can enjoy the entire season. It keeps us interested in it and keeps us engaged. So,
which is amazing.
Yeah.
And I got to say this. Finally, we got some good news with the return of the quarterfinals. I think having the quarterfinals have been desperately needed, especially over the past couple seasons. So what do you thought when they said quarterfinals are back?
I was excited for it. I mean, I know it was still the same number of episodes that we had last season, but it was nice having that extra round. The biggest thing for me about the show is I want to see these acts perform. I just want to see them perform.
Yeah.
I want to see them perform multiple times. I don't want to go from a live show and then they get, auditions and then they get basically 2 live show performances. I loved the days that we would see these acts 4, 5, sometimes 6 times. And to now we're getting a max of 3 or 4. We're getting a max of 4. If they do an audition, they go to the quarters, they go to the semis, and they go to the final. And then last year we were only getting 3 times, and it felt like a big letdown. I want to get invested in these acts.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Cody as saying that we want to see these acts more, because as I said, no judge cuts is already hurting them by not being able to perform multiple times, or at least get that critique from the judges. Hey, this is great, but maybe don't do this or change this or something they can take back and learn. If they make it to the live shows, here's what we need to improve on, or here's what we take away from this performance. They don't have that anymore. So adding the quarterfinals back in was good. Let's take it a step up in season 20 and add in some judge cuts. That's what I say.
Yeah.
And I think like the quarterfinals fixes a lot of our diversity in the finals problem that we have. Like, I mean, look at this year. So, right, we coming out of the quarters into the semis, we had a lot of singers, so many singers that went through. But look how many made it from the semis to the finals. It was like just Richard, like that made it out of that group, and Dee Dee from the live show Golden Buzzer.
Exactly.
Yeah, live show Golden Buzzer.
Don't come at Dee Dee.
But like, I think it allowed the viewer to be like, oh, whoa, these people are getting a lot more votes than I thought. Let's rein that down a little bit. Do they deserve to be in the finals? It almost allows us as viewers to get the chance to like gauge the people we're going to put in the finals and get more of what we want in the finals, which I think led to, I thought was a great finals. We had all these different types of acts that we all could appreciate together, rather than having 6 singers and like 2 other acts that were voted through. So I love having the quarterfinals back. We get to learn these acts more. We get to know these acts more. We get to see Brent Street perform 4 times with different acts. We get to love that because we get to see them develop and grow throughout the show. Like, we need more of that on AGT again.
And I got to say this, I wish that there was a trade-off, because Cody, you and I both know there are some incredible acts that were robbed of a spot in the quarterfinals. I'm thinking Super Silva and Helen come to mind, because the thing is, I'd rather had Super Silva in again of Los Ojos High Schools, and I think Helen would have been a much better than either Menendo or or Alex Sampson or whoever.
No, you're right. There was some, and it could be for various reasons. You know, the judge didn't like them. Maybe they had other commitments. There are many different reasons why an act from auditions didn't move on to the live show. But I'm with you. I'm with you, Jacob. There are some acts that I would like to have seen. I will say I was happy to see like Schumacher in the live shows. To be honest, I'm a fan of those guys. I think they're great. So yeah, I'm glad they got in.
What to say about that? They are the worst golden buzzers I've ever seen in my life.
Hey, that's the 18th overall pick in our draft. That is top half respect right there.
Alrighty. So we talked about live golden buzzers, and I know the panels were mixed about that, but I want to go over them one by one and what your thoughts were. So let's start with Sophia. She takes Hakuna Matata acrobats.
I like them. I was like, it reminded me a lot of Ramadani Brothers, but a lighter version, I would say, because I mean, Ramadani Brothers, we saw them last season. We saw them in Fantasy League. Probably should have won their season last season and not Fantasy League, but they got the win they deserve in Fantasy League anyways. But I mean, I thought they were good. Don't get me wrong, they were very talented. I just think they were a light version of Ramadani Brothers.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. Hakuna Matata is great. Deserved to be in the finals. They're a little bit more erratic than the Ramadani Brothers. Like they fell twice throughout the course of AGT. Ramadani Brothers never fell once in 2 shows.
Same with the Masadis too. Bring them in.
Yeah. So it's like, I think the Ramadani Brothers light is a good comparison because Ramadani Brothers are to me, the like standard of the head balance type acts. And I think Hakuna Matata did justice to the category because they're different, but I think that they got a deserving spot in the show for where they ended up.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Hakuna Matata. I do like them. The Ramadani Brothers. I had them on my team during Fantasy League, and so I was real happy to kind of see them win. And Hakuna Matata is very similar to them. They really like to go with the Rolo Bolo or the Rolo Bolo. They really like to do that. And then adding in the ladder in the finals, I felt added a new level. It's just they felt like they could always do a little bit more. But you got to watch the falling. You can't fall twice, definitely.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
If we had the Piers and Howard Stern era, It would have been buzz, buzz, buzz.
Yes, that's right.
All righty, and I got to say this: I think we're all in agreement when it comes to the top 3. It'd be Ramadani at the top. I think Masadi, and then Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, I think 2 and 3 is probably close. I mean, they may even be on the same level. Yep.
Alrighty. Next up was the controversial surprise of Simon trying to try to break his own record, but Howie got there first. It was Air Footworks. I gotta say they definitely deserved that golden buzzer.
Agreed. Yes. Jay had Air Footworks, right?
Yes.
Yes,
he did.
So yeah, I think that was the right choice. You also get the Kenichi Abina bump for them.
Absolutely.
I think that even if we didn't know that Kenichi was involved, they could hold their own.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they definitely deserve their golden buzzer. I mean, they were fantastic, and I mean, like I said, Kenichi Abina, again, one of the legends of AGT, and see what he did with I believe it was like their mentor or something like that. So
yes, I believe he would. This is, I think, Kenichi's second act, I believe, that he mentored. And I gotta say, Kenichi is on fire with the acts that he's mentored. Either some of them have gotten semifinals, or even all the way to the finale.
Yeah, and I mean, that just shows that what he can do. He's amazing at what he does. What I will say is, the only thing I did not, and it's not Air Footworks. It's the production where they're doing their act and you see the camera just tilting, or there's an effect that the camera tilts on its own. Like, we don't need that. Let's just see what this act can do on their own. And we saw it in the auditions. Like, they are incredible. So that's my only critique with that.
Yeah. And I would say her footworks to me was, I don't love the live show Golden Buzzers, but it was the most deserving of the live show Golden Buzzers to me. I had them sixth overall ranked on the season. They ended up almost pretty much probably in that exact same spot to end the year. So like this was totally fine with me. Even though I don't like live show Golden Buzzers, I was totally fine with this going through the finals.
Yeah, Jacob also say that I think us as viewers also got robbed in the finals results where we did not get Kenichi.
Yes,
to perform with
I was about ready to bring that up because the thing is, it'd been nice. I like Steve Aoki, but having Kenichi and Air Footworks together to showcase the legacy of that, probably with because Kenichi could easily have moved with Steve Aoki, and then like to have that and like wow, would have probably been like. I got to say, Kenichi's getting a little bit older, and I understand why that he may have not got him. But I got to say, producers, that was wrong call, and we'll also talk about wrong calls. Mike, when we talk about Michael Bublé, because I was thinking, where's Emily West and where's Storm Large? Because those two would have been really great duet partners. Yeah. For Michael Bublé. We'll get back to it later. But however, speaking of singers, Dee Dee Simon, I think Dee Dee's great, especially that Liv fell so early on, which I was so surprised by and so upset by that Liv fell so early. So if I gotta say, if there was ever going to pick up the slack, it would have been Dee Dee, and I think that was a great moment.
Yeah, I mean, she is. When we were doing our draft, I was like, wait, I need something that will get me a golden buzzer in a live show. And it's like, if anybody can do it, it's going to be her. I was thinking either she's going to get like the pimp spot, the last part where they give her like a really good spot and a good song, and or something. So she was one of the ones I knew would have a chance to make it into the either semifinals or finals. And she ended up getting the golden buzzer. I mean, she took her shoes off as her trademark, which she always does. And I mean, she was just a very good singer from, I believe she was a nurse at St. Quentin Prison, I believe. So interesting. But what people don't know is she does have a singing background. She does have some music out there. If you look at her Spotify, she does have music out there. So she is also a singer on the side. So some people dug it up and they were not too happy with that.
I think the thing was, I think Dee Dee was smart with strategy because that kind of hurt Liv, especially with Prince. But I got to say this: I rather watch somebody that had a Prince song in their repertoire than someone that was singing unoriginal songs or trying to be like the male Lana Del Rey.
Agreed.
All right, any thoughts on Dee Dee before we move on?
Yeah, I got a couple here. So I've been pretty vocal from the start that I've not been a big fan of Liv Warfield. So to me, I will take the hot take that Dee Dee would have made it regardless of whether Liv was on the show or not over her. But that's just, maybe it's my generation. It's not my type of music and stuff like that. But I will say with Dee Dee, I think that, to be honest with you, this was my least favorite live show Golden Buzzer, not because she didn't deserve it, but I think this really hurt her. Like, we got to see her once, and then was weeks. We didn't see her again, and then she appeared in the finals in the second spot of the night, which is a terrible spot to be on the night. But Richard had all that time as the singer of the show to gain the publicity and the background that it almost devalued her performance in the finals. Because we knew that Richard was the singer that was going to win if a singer was going to win. So I almost wish we had seen Dee Dee go to the semis just to sing one more song so we could like her more, enjoy her story more. But I was not a giant fan of this Golden Buzzer, even though I think she was deserving on the night. It's just, I thought this kind of hurt her in the season.
I think it was like the reverse Christina Ray, I think, because we saw Christina way back in season 15. She went all the way. She was another Heidi Golden Buzzer, and possibly one of her best Golden Buzzers so far this decade, up until Richard. So the thing is, like Christina, we saw her perform at every single round, and she was robbed of top two. But I got to say, I think Dee Dee, if she performed one more time, I think she could either have knocked out Roni in rhythm or learned more from the spots.
It was never going to happen. Roni and Rhythm were going to be second place regardless. I stand by that. I stand by that.
I'm probably the lowest on Dee Dee of everyone. I've not been a fan of Dee Dee. I've not been a fan of Liv. I just don't think either one of them are as great as everyone says. Every time I think I've listened to them, I've heard pitchiness, just like almost all the singers. Reed had that issue. Who was it? Praniska. She had that issue. I heard a lot of pitchiness, a lot of maybe over singing. I was just not a fan of any of those. Most of the solo singers this season, other than Richard. Yeah. And I think mainly for Richard, it was because I'm a fan of all the songs that he sang. And so they were all very familiar to me. and he sang them very similarly to the original, and so that kind of piqued my interest more. So yeah, I'm probably the lowest on Dee Dee of everyone.
And I gotta say, for advice for singers, if for everyone, please watch how Barbara Padilla did it. Even though it's opera, the forte tenors, Brandon, also Jimmy. We gotta have Jimmy Harrod add Jimmy Harrod in conversation, and also Christina, and also Cody as well. And I gotta say Emily West and Storm Large. I gotta say those are, I think, if you're group form, Voices of Service, Chapel Hearts, Lincoln Bridge are your blueprints if you're going to go on AGT. If you are a vocal, and if you're choir, if you're a massive choir, Angel City Chorale. If you're something that wants to move and excite people, Mizansi.
It's a solid list.
All right.
It's not Detroit Youth Choir.
I know. I was like, I'm not a big fan. Anyway, we got to go to the polarizing one on this list. I got to say Sebastian and Sonia.
I think it's a great way to describe them. I think if she didn't get injured, which is obviously the part of this why this is polarizing, is if she didn't get injured, that's a really deserving Golden Buzzer. They should be in the finals. They're a great act. But they definitely got the Golden Buzzer just because he performed because she was injured. And it's not that it wasn't the right thing to do for them, but like, was she really going to heal in time for her to perform in the finals and them to be the act that Simon thought they could be? And if so, if that's not why you did it, was he deserving enough on his own to be the single act to go to the finals? I don't know about that. Like he is good, but he's not Aiden Bryant. Their act was them together. So the minute she got injured, I'm happy they performed. But to me, this almost felt like a slightly wasted Golden Buzzer because you knew that their act wasn't going to be complete in the finals. Just because it's just not, you're not going to heal that fast to be able to perform to what you used to be able to do. So it's polarizing. Deserving act, just really tough time and a horrible circumstance that happened to cause it.
And this is coming from our literal medical expert on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I feel like, okay, so first of all, ever since Simon had a kid, like he's become a lot more mellow, and I've said that many times before. So, I mean, I will say, I feel like he gave them this Golden Buzzer out of sympathy because she got hurt. Not taking away that they're talented, because I do that, I break my elbow again. Let's just be real. But I mean, the thing is that they were a good act, and they were amazing in the auditions. Looking back, probably should have picked them in our draft. But I mean, I will say that him on his own, also very good. But that's not the act that we originally saw. It was them together. And then I think that, going off what Ryan said about Dee Dee, the live Golden Buzzer hurting Dee Dee, I think it hurt them as well, because here's the thing. When Simon gave it to them and then he performed by himself, got the Golden Buzzer, she came back in the live show and did her uninjured arm to do the act. I felt like, okay, now that we've seen her do it injured, I still feel he's better on his own than whenever he's there with her. Like, I think that whole thing just ruined that act. I mean, it was very polarizing. I feel like Simon did it out of sympathy, to be honest with you.
And here's the thing, Cody and Steven. If this was Howard Stern, if this was Piers Morgan in their prime, X's and also some harsh feedback.
Yep.
I don't know if they would X, because you can't help an injury. Yeah. But I do think they would definitely give harsh critique for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to say this. I think if Howard was on the panel, if Simon did this, Howard would have lost his mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Seriously, Ryan, you need to watch season 7 through 10, because I think Howard is probably one of the better judges that we've seen over the years.
Well, the good news is through the AGT Time Pod, they do this rewatchable series, and they're inviting me on a lot more to join. So I am actually going back and watching some of these old seasons now, being forced to. So it's been a good time. But yes, from what the little I've seen, I think I would agree with you on that statement.
One of my favorite Judge of Howard Stern moments is there was an act. I forget what the act was, but there was an act. And they said, "Oh, my so-and-so passed away." And then all those oh no. And then Howard goes, "Did they die of embarrassment?" Because that's how bad this act
I remember that.
Yeah. And I was like, and I'm thinking, like, that is what we're missing now from the panel. Now you have all 4 judges, as great as they are, but they're just too nice And going off of what Ryan said, you have to think of what's going on in the world, how cultures have changed since the old days of AGT, how you really can't be as harsh anymore with some of these acts, because obviously mental health is very important, and I'll always advocate for mental health always. But you see this on every other show as well, where none of the judges, whether it's The Voice, Talent, Idol, whatever, they're not as harsh anymore as they used to be.
Yeah, and the only one that was probably harsh in any of this was, of course, Old School Simon. Christina Aguilera got a lot of heat because of her hard criticisms on The Voice. I got to say this, and also not to mention, I think that what happened in X Factor New Zealand really set the tone when Natalia Kills went out off filter.
Yeah.
And yes, I missed having Piers in this tautness, but I think right now, especially with all the controversy he faced around what's going on with the Markles and everything, I think with Harry and Meghan, I don't think Piers would be really necessary for this volume, because there would be a lot of heat coming his way.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so let's go on to the top 10. I thought it was an okay top 10. It wasn't like a season 11 top 10 or the 13 top 10 or the season 8 or 9 top 10, which are probably the best ones.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, like, I think we all in agreement we knew Richard was going to win, but in the unlikely event that he didn't, I think probably Roni was probably the next one that was probably had the best chance of winning. And then I know Jay, if he's not here, but he's probably going to listen to this and be like, I hate this act, but Sky Elements.
Very vocal about it the whole year.
Yes. I think those probably, Sky Elements and Roni are probably the other two that would have had any chance of defeating Richard if he didn't win. It would be one of those two. So I mean, it's probably one of the weaker top 10s, I would say. For the season, it's not bad. But if you're stacking it up against 19 or 18 other seasons, it's definitely not up there. Ryan's probably thinking back from Cody.
And I gotta say this, I think Aiden and Hurricane winning really kind of set, unfortunately, whereas there was a lot of pushback. Ronnie Rhythm had to deal with, I think, because of Aiden and Hurricane winning.
See, I'm trying my best not to be biased because it's so hard because like over half of the top 5 were my acts. So of course I fell in love with all of them. But when I think it comes, do I think that our winner and our stuff is better than like the Mayas and season 17? No, that was to me still my staple. Like that was my favorite winner. That was my favorite time period. But you know, I've been very vocal about how much I've loved the acts that I thought were in the top 5 the entire season. Like and this is my opinion. I know this is very controversial out there from everybody's opinions, but Ronnie and Rhythm are the best animal act to come on AGT, in my opinion. I believe that Solange is the best quick change artist to come on AGT. And I personally think Brent Street is the best artistic dance crew. I don't count Maya's as that. Maya's is a different category. They do a different thing to me. But I would put Brent Street just below them on talent to come onto the show. And we've never seen a drone act. Now, I don't necessarily agree that outdoor act should necessarily be on AGT proper, but they are the best drone show act like them to come on. So if we're looking at ranking these
the
based
only drone
on
show act to come on,
exactly
Wait
true.
a
But that
minute,
makes
what
them
about
number one.
Extreme? We gotta bring Extreme.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, true.
To me, if we're ranking this on AGT history, we have, in my opinion, 3 of the best of their category to be in the top 5. Now, there are strange categories.
I would have to argue really quickly, Ryan.
Yes, go for it.
The Unbeatable, Avant-Garde, and Murmuration.
Different crew, though. Acrobatics. I consider The Unbeatable way more acrobatics than I consider them artistic dance. To me, that Brent Street is modern artistic dance. Their talent is choreography. It is not their flipping and spinning and throwing of each other.
Okay,
so that's
what about
why
Avant-Garde or Murmuration?
I think Brent Street's better than Avant-Garde.
Really?
Murmuration, I do, 100%. Murmuration, tough. They're close categories. They different choreography, though. You know, hand motion versus full body movement and showing a story are different types of dance. So I think there's a little separation there, but I agree, that's close. I would personally go to Brent Street over Murmuration. That's my opinion. I'm not saying they're better. I would personally go to Brent Street over Murmuration, even though I love Murmuration too.
Jacob, you have to remember his sample size is really small.
Yes.
So.
All right.
Hey, my sample size includes a win, so.
Ooh. All righty, so we got to talk about Richard winning. I got to say this. This was, if this was, I say that this was I think with Richard winning, it was like a curveball slaughter to the end, where like a pump all the way to the end. Like I did not see anyone stopping him, especially with all of the powerhouse surrounding, and all those views too, on not just on YouTube but on Instagram and TikTok as well. And I gotta say, I think having Neil surprising him at the final night really brought the Journey fans into the voting spot, especially with Neil saying, "We are performing with you on the finale," which I got to say this. I listened to the podcast. I agree with you. Probably one of the best duet performances of all time. I put it with Landau and Patti LaBelle. I put it with Emily West and Cyndi Lauper. I put it with on the same level as Voices of Service and Billy Ray. And I also got to say, I would also bring in Christina Ray and Ryan Tedder in that group as well. For like, as remember, and of course Forte Tenors with Josh Groban, another big one of those were probably the most memorable collaborations and duets of all time. So I got to say, seeing Richard and Journey and with Neil, Sean, and Rob members of Journey rock out on stage, that was probably a storybook ending.
Yeah, I mean, seeing, like I said, when he walked out, auditions 1 and did "Don't Stop Believin'," before the night, literally before the next day came, I was like, okay, that's your winner, because there was hype. And I'm not just talking viral hits, video clicks, YouTube. I am talking hype from the show. Like, if you look on social media, NBC was promoting that. Any commercial for coming up next week on AGT, you see Richard constantly being promoted and pushed by production over and over and over again. So, I mean, it was a combination of just genuine talent on his part, plus, being pushed and being hyped up. And I mean, like I said, obviously we all know the finale was taped a couple of days after the finale or the final performances. But seeing that performance with Journey, I was like, he can't not win now. Like, there's no way he doesn't win if they're going to do this. So I think it reminded me of Cody Lee season where Gabriel hit the golden bus for Cody, and Cody ends up winning the whole thing. He steamrolls to the end. This reminded me a lot of that. Looking back, again, should have picked him in the draft. But I mean,
and you brought this up too. I remember Grace Vanderwall overcoming the clairvoyance because of all of the hype. And also got to say, same with Darcy Lynn as well.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I will say about Richard is that we saw in season 18, we saw Putri receive the same level of YouTube love that Richard got. In my opinion, though, the big difference between Richard and Putri is Richard is fully American. I think that's a big piece to his win, and he's incredibly relatable to everybody. Everybody wants to cheer for him. So I think that was what put him over the edge. But that's why when I was drafting, when I was looking at it, like, if I see a world where Richard doesn't win, it's that component of it. We saw this similar thing with Putri, and she got 4th place. Wasn't even like she was in the top 3. So that's where it was like a little doubt. I still thought Richard was going to win. Like, I mean, we all kind of felt it at the end, but like that was that little crack where I'm like, okay, if somebody doesn't want a singer to win, and we've seen this happen before where a singer goes viral and it doesn't win, maybe one of these other acts can slip in and pull an Adrian and Hurricane, right? If they come in and just steal more votes, even though we thought all along this act was the viral hit.
Yeah, and I will going off real quick on Ryan's point. Putri, I believe, was from the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I mean, same thing we saw in Champions with Marcelita Pamoy. He was Ryan. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's the dual. Yeah, he's the dual sing. He can do male voice, girl voice, female voice, and kind of do like the duet one person. Really cool. Check it on YouTube. And so the thing is, a lot of his fans in the Philippines are, oh, how dare he not win? You know, we were hoping he would win. Well, unfortunately, they can't vote. It's only Americans or the super fans at the time who can vote. So,
and that's why I think Speaking of that, I'm so sorry to interrupt. While we're on the subject of Asia's Got Talent, a lot of people. This brings me to Geraldine Flores, one of the greatest Golden Buzzer acts I got to say of any global Got Talent. That's why people were afraid of her coming on to season 2 of Champions, or coming on to All-Stars, because they're worried about how she would be treated. And she has one of the greatest voices of any Got Talent. And I think of the pillars of powerful voices. You have Barbara, Christina, Jurafil, and Janique Fournier from Canada's Got Talent. Of those 4 women's voices together, and if you add Sydney Christmas to it, oh my God, from Britain's Got Talent this year, you have the pantheon of powerful singers. But however, people were worried about Jurafil coming on because of what happened to Marcelita.
Exactly. And I mean, that's the thing. If Britain's Got Talent did Champions as well, and I will say this, if you're going to go on Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent or any country's Got Talent, more than likely, if it's a spin-off edition, you're not going to see another country win. You're going to see someone from your country win. So when they did Champions here, you had Shin Lim win the first season after he won season 13. You had multiple people who are on the American version of the show winning, not international versions. So I mean, I think that's just to be expected, unfortunately. But I mean, that does not take away of the talent that we see from some of these acts around the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of that, season 20, the 20th anniversary season is coming up. I know we were talking, one of the conversations that we got started that I was brought to my attention was U.S. Sun, one of the well-known gossip columns of the U.S., reported that Howie, Heidi, and Sophia's contracts were up in the air. What went through your mind when you saw that story pop
up? For me, I will say I don't believe it because here's the thing. The Sun, it doesn't matter if it's the U.S. Sun or the British Sun, it's not really reliable when it comes to news like this. It is true that Simon is going to be the one deciding on who to bring back because it's his show. He can do what he wants. He can fire all of them if he chooses to right now. My opinion, I do believe we are going to see a judge change. I have heard this for the past few weeks. I've heard a couple of sources tell me that it is highly possible to see a judge change, but it's not the judge you think. Howie's going to be a staple of the show. He's not going anywhere. He has that status that he's there until he chooses to leave. The one I think is going to leave is Heidi over Sophia, because other than her Netflix show, the movie that she's making with Netflix, what else does she really have going on? Heidi has Germany's next top model, and she's a judge there, and she's supposed to be traveling, I believe, to do like a hotel opening around the time of filming of auditions in March of 2025. Now, if she can be in two places at once, that's cool. Like, that'd be really cool. She could do that. Maybe she can get Solange to quick change her. I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, if she can do two places at once, cool. But if she has to choose one over the other, obviously, which one makes you the most money? And also, she's from Germany, so she's German. So I mean, like, she could easily fit in there a lot better, and I'm sure they could fill out her schedule better. I'm interested to see if she chooses one or the other and what decision is made there. But if anyone leaves, I think it's Heidi over Sophia, because the reason I say that is because Simon seems to really have a love for Sophia, especially this past season where she's kind of adopting more of his antics. I didn't like it. I loved it, type of stuff. So I think, in my opinion, if anyone leaves, it's going to be Heidi.
And see, like, I like your reasoning behind that, but we look at Sophia's two golden buzzers in the auditions. Like, we look at Schumacher and Lechion. Now, Lechion was cool, but neither one of them did anything, like, at all on the show after the auditions. So to me, if they're going to go more golden buzzer approach, which it feels like they're doing because they're just increasing it through the roof, you kind of want your judges to be pretty good at picking them. And we've now seen what Simon's not going to be gone. Howie's excellent at golden buzzers, and Heidi's just one. So there's your three arguments for the other three being able to do that job. Sophia doesn't add a lot of comments on judging.
But I gotta say, Maya and Jimmy Harrod.
Yeah, but I mean, not even technically top 5. Jimmy Harrod didn't make the top 5; it was just top 10. So if that is her pinnacle, all the other judges have already past that.
Maya's did win though.
Yeah. So it's like, Sophia doesn't add a lot from the actual commenting thing for me.
Right.
So I at least want to see her great golden buzzers. And this season was a really down for her on both categories.
Yeah,
so that's where if I were to choose. Yeah.
I think like she was out to lunch a little bit at a time. It felt like Cody, you and I brought it up when I was on, because it felt like with this audition, I think she was out to lunch, and we were talking about maybe Mel B stepping back in, especially. So it was great seeing her back in with Fantasy League, or maybe Nicole Scherzinger stepping in. However, the Netflix special, and also mentioned Broadway right now. So, and I think Paula with the Nigel Lithgow lawsuit, I don't think Paula's done with that reality TV, even though she and Simon have had the classic love-hate. And I think NBC burned Sharon Osbourne so badly, I don't think she's going to come back, even though I would love to see Simon and Sharon go toe-to-toe on USA television. So maybe I've always said Mary Murphy. I would love to see Mary Murphy from So You Think You Can Dance come back and bring the hot tamale train with the did a live show playoffs on the hot tamale train straight to the golden buzzer and have her crazy scream. I think Mary would be perfect. But like the thing is, at the same time, a lot of celebrities don't want to. They already saw what happened with Gabrielle Union and her lawsuit against the show. So a lot of people may be hesitant.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cody.
I was just going to add that I think Sophia's commenting has just gotten very stale. I don't think she, as Ryan is saying, she hasn't added anything. I think she's kind of folding it in. She's not really giving anything of value, I believe, to the show other than her low cut dresses.
I mean, I won't say that. No, that was good. Okay, I will say this though when Sophia first came on the show, she was a fresh new face. They were really promoting her a lot, obviously, because she's the new judge.
I was excited when she first came on.
I was excited too.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say, after that first season, her act became kind of bland. Mm-hmm. It came kind of bland for me. Not saying she's not a great person or nothing like that, but her judging, I'm just like, I already know what she's going to say. She's going to say, "You did amazing, bravo, you did amazing." It's going to be the same thing over and over. If she does go, or I do believe it's going to be one of the women that do go. First of all, if anyone does go, it's going to be one of the women. If it's Sophia or Heidi, whichever one, or both, who knows? I could see. Honestly, think of what Simon likes to do. He likes to get people he's already worked with or has a good personal relationship with. He apparently knew Sophia from before she signed her on Modern Family, or from Modern Family after the show ended, excuse me. I think if anyone goes to be a judge and it's a female, don't be surprised if you see someone already in the NBC family and it's Reba McEntire.
Reba, really? Over Kelly Clarkson? A lot of fans have wanted Kelly to be the next judge because of
here's the thing with Kelly, she left The Voice because of everything that was on her plate already. She had some health issues, which was her weight loss, and then she had some other stuff going on with her kids and her family,
and a divorce too.
Divorce, exactly. Those are a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, and then she moved her show to New York. So I don't see her being a judge on the show, even if Simon would ask her to. I think he would get somebody that he's already worked with. So that's hypothetically, if Howie ever left, I could see Kenan Thompson being a judge on the show.
Or Eric Stone should come back on, or Neil Patrick Harris, especially if we want a rivalry, because Neil was supposed to do Australia's Got Talent before David Williams came in.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes. Part of me says, okay, and I think all of us can agree, even commenter, if he was here, would agree with this. The show needs some kind of change. It needs a shakeup of some sort. And first thing you can do is mess with the judging panel, see what you can do. And I think it's going to be, if any of the women go, I think it's going to be Heidi over Sophia because of her schedule. But I think we're all in agreement of who should go, probably Sophia.
What's the likelihood they bring in?
I got to say this. It'd be fun to see someone like, I know that Simon brought up Brittany again, especially with the current headlines, but I can also see Demi Lovato come in and maybe Kelly Rowland. I've been wanting Kelly Rowland on the show for a while.
What would be the likelihood they bringing in a former contestant?
That's the thing. The thing is, though, if we're replacing male, Terry Fader, hands down, should be at the judge's desk because he's the most successful of all the contestants. But female, it's very difficult. You could have the people that I could see do this. Barbara Padilla, she's conquered Latin America, and if she can, she's also conquered cancer. And she has one of the greatest voices that show has ever seen. I would pick her. I'm not sure what Grace Vanderwaal wants to do. I don't think, and especially after what happened with Darcy Lynn on Fantasy League, I think she's out of consideration.
Yes, agree.
You disagree?
No, I totally agree. She ruined my championship attempt. So I love Darcy, but
shifted her style also to that. But I would say I agree with Cody. I agree with all you guys actually. But Cody, you're right. If they bring back a former contestant, Terry Fader, hands down. Yeah. But I don't know if you guys know this. Before Terry Crews became the host, he was in talks to be a judge.
Really?
I'm not sure if you guys knew this or not. He was in talks to be a judge before he became the host. Now, obviously, we know that didn't work out. He's the host of the show. They originally were going to get another female host after Tyra was. Let's be real. Tyra was fired. Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. But I had to go. I was just too busy. No, you were fired. But I mean, there's a reason why she's not hosting Dancing with the Stars anymore. But I mean, let me just say, they were really going to get another female host or do a pair of hosts because that's how they do it in Britain. Ant and Dec host in the UK.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so they were going to do something like that. It just doesn't work that well in America. We were used to one host in AGT forever. So don't be surprised if you see some changes like that happening. Maybe Terry becomes a judge, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I mean, like it could be some kind of thing.
Well, what if we have Simone Biles be the host, and then we have Terry down?
The way she read the cue card.
I gotta say this. I love Simone. I think she was trying. I think Hoda would be great. I think Hoda would be great as a co-host if you're necessary. But the problem would be, does she have the chemistry with Terry?
Yeah. I mean, Terry's just a great dude on and off camera. I've heard from so many people. Like, he's just a nice, genuinely nice guy. So everyone gets along with him well. But I'm just
I feel like Terry has to be standing, though. I feel like he has so much energy. He needs to be standing on the side. If he sits in that chair, he's going to be up out of that chair every single time.
Yeah. Especially like what he might do what Paula Abdul did during Idol when she loved to see the sporting dance contestants that was feeling it. She danced, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Yeah.
Alrighty, so we gotta talk. So now we have that judges takeaway. I gotta say, 20. I really hope they do something very big, like I was on Reddit earlier this year. I made a 3-hour pitch. If they gave me Fremantle and NBC, and Simon said go ahead, I would give them a 3-hour celebration of AGT that started off with Terry, Nick, and Tyra coming together to host it, trading off. You would have basically opening up the choir open up of all the best choirs. Angel City Chorale, Ndolu, Mizanzi come together, do like This Is Me, and then This Is Greatest Show. Maybe with a montage, and I know someone brought up a bow of all the winners coming together and doing like one big bow, and then doing like a judges reunion or something like that. Maybe maybe videos from Gabrielle, Howard, and Sharon. That I know viewers may be able to join in. I know maybe Julianne might be pulled away from that, and of course the Hoff, MLB, and Brandy might be going to the party. But like, I would see like once in a lifetime performances, like especially for the evolution of strings. I like for the evolution of strings, like you start with nothing but strings, but then bring on the Earth Harp and Emil and Daryl, and then Tyler and Lindsay and Brian. And you also have maybe once in a lifetime duets. Like, I still say having Barbara Badilla and the Forte tenors together for the prayer, oh my God, that would be amazing. And then having Brandon James and Christina Ray sing Hallelujah to like an in memoriam, and then the magic, and like I would love and like the acrobatics, like Be Unbeatable together with Acro Army. And then maybe do that. Like, it would be probably the best show in series history, because they got to do something to celebrate the 20th anniversary season.
Yeah, I definitely want to see some type of something to honor 20 years, because 20 years is a big deal. So we got to do something to see that.
Yeah, I definitely tune in for it. Even if I definitely tune in for that. To get to see all those incredible acts, all the winners minus the ones that we've lost in the last couple of years. Yeah, it'd be an incredible show. I think it'd be an absolutely incredible show to see.
And I gotta say this, I really hope and pray they do something right. Like maybe have it at Radio City Musical at one night only. Like, because that's where I think they got that's where I think AGT took off, was when they had at Radio City, was when they took off and shot up like a rocket. But if they want to keep it California, Dolby.
Yeah. Ryan's going to have to go back and watch a lot of old stuff, though, because you won't know who most of these acts are.
If they give me a card in advance to tell me which acts I should review, I will go do it.
Alrighty, so what are your hopes for season 20, guys?
I think the biggest hope is judge cuts. I think that's unlikely, but if they do anything, bring that back and go. If they did anything at all, go back to maybe like season 10, 11, 12, that format with the judge cuts. We can have these many golden buzzers, but break it up. Judges have the one. The guest judges in the judge cuts have it. Let's go back to that format, and that would be the absolute, I think, dream of everything. That's a really weird statement to say, but that's what I would love to have. If I could throw the penny in the well or rub the genie lamp, I'd say make season 20 exactly like 10, 11, or 12.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, I guess I think we're all advocates for Judge Cuts coming back for sure, 100%. But I mean, I would like to see the show go back to what it used to be instead of this overproduced thing that we have now. I mean, Cody, you talked about it when we did our podcast, the drones, and there's a drone within the drone, and you were in the sky with him. Like, that just didn't make sense. And I was like, I feel like I'm dizzy watching this. Like, why am I watching this right now? Like, I mean, things like that, overproduced, showing the audience like every 50 seconds or that's generous, every 5 seconds, I would say, of like act, judge reaction for 10 seconds, audience reaction for 5 seconds, then back to the act. Like, I mean, I joke with these guys, but it's true. Like, it's kind of the point where I watch AGT with my mom like every summer, and I have to go and edit the show, pull the clips from YouTube, edit it, take out the clips of the audience so she can watch it because she hates seeing audience reactions in there. And we're living in 2025 next year when the show comes back. We've developed picture-in-picture. Like, if you want to show the audience, you can put the picture on the right-hand corner while we're seeing the act, just so you can see the judge's reactions of everyone else. Like, we've lived in that generation. So I want to see better editing, like cleaner, less complicated editing. I want to see the AGT we all know and love. In the 20th anniversary season, you should do that. You should be able to give us what we want, what we love, judge cuts, real critiques instead of saying we love every single thing. I will say Howie's been that judge who's been like, you know what, this is not good enough. He said it multiple times. This act is not good enough for what we've seen in the past. I'm thinking we need more of that. So I'm hoping we can get something like that next season.
Yeah, Jacob, this season they would have a TikTok view during the live shows, and on TikTok they would show just one vertical view stationary. And I've talked all season what I would love for them to do, and I would pay for this on Peacock. Just give me one middle shot right at the stage. There's nothing but the stage that I can just watch that one view and see, or from a position there in the theater, whatever the audience sees, I want to be able to experience what it is that the audience is seeing without all of these different cuts.
And I got to say this, please diversify your alumni coming back. Especially results show, because the thing is, I would love to see Barbara Badilla come on and do what the Forte Tenors come on. They've been scratching at the surface. Come on, Angel City Chorale, Terry Fader, like people we haven't seen in ages, to do one final act, to just do an act or performance instead of the same old, because it looks like, I love Matt and he's really great, but it felt boring.
I would think the biggest thing that I'm really looking for next season is I want to give more of the power back to America. We're talking about like the idea of it's our say, it's what we like. We should be celebrating how kind of America has made this show great. So to me, and I'm going to stand by this, like, get rid of the live show golden buzzers. If this is the 20th year season, let America vote who their top 10 is. The judges, once you get past auditions, their job's done. Now it's America to choose their favorite act for the final season. I don't think half our finals should be chosen by the judges. If it's really the 20th year of America's Got Talent, we should know what we want to vote for by now. So let us have the power to do that.
We want a democracy, not a monarchy, right?
Yeah.
Where's the eagle sound?
Alrighty, guys. So we gotta start winding down our conversation. So why should my audience check out AGT Time Pod?
Well, if you love America's Got Talent like we do, come check us out, because that is literally all we talk about. We don't talk about any other reality TV. So all year round, America's Got Talent. We just finished what we consider AGT proper. That's kind of the in season where we, again, cover the season. In the off season, commenter and I join up to do what are called AGT rewatchables, and we go back and we rewatch acts from previous seasons. One of the rules that we instituted last year was that the season has to be at least 5 years old. So we're not going to go back and rewatch an act from season 18 or 19. Season 15, I think, just became eligible in that. So we might be rewatching an act from season 15 coming up real soon. And then we watch all of that act's performances in the season. We give it a ranking, and then we just kind of have some fun and talk about it. But within that, you may hear Olympic talk, or you may hear geography talk.
Yeah.
We love talking geography. You may hear you're going to hear a lot of stats. We really break things down, and then we'll have guests on. Ryan, Steven have been on. We've had various guests on. We've had previous acts come on and cover the rewatchable. So yeah, it's a great time. We love doing that. If they have a mid-season, which I'm not sure we're going to have a mid-season, we haven't heard anything yet, but if there's a mid-season, we'll cover that. When March Madness rolls around, when the big basketball tournament in March rolls around, we at Commenter and I, we do a bracket, and every other year we do a very large bracket, and it could be different themed. This past year for 2024, it was eras themed. So we went through the various eras of AGT. We had Pierce's era. We put acts in a bracket for Pierce's era, and then for Howard's, and then we broke Simon's eras into two, and then we just go through and we come out with a winner of that. We just do various things. We have a lot of fun doing AGT. You'll catch us almost every week talking about something. Ryan comes on, throws some stats our ways, and again, we just have a lot of fun. We're always up for ideas. So if you have an interesting idea, send it our way. AGT Time Pod. That's on all of our social medias. AGTTimepod@gmail.com is our email address. But yeah, you're going to hear AGT all year round, no matter what.
And I want to add something too. If you're one of those people that watches AGT and either like wants to talk about it with somebody, but no one around you is as interested in it as you are, or you just don't understand why certain acts are winning, like that's the value of this type of podcast. Because I think what we do really well at AGT Time when I get to guest on with you guys is that we bring all these different perspectives. We talk about why we think things are going that way. So it brings so much more perspective into the season, which helps you be less frustrated with the end result and a lot more understanding and supportive of these acts that are performing. So if you're that type of person who finds yourself just constantly frustrated watching AGT, but you love it, you just want to keep watching, come on, this is the perfect place to come on over. There's going to be someone you relate to. There's going to be some opinion you're going to agree with, and you're just going to find it so much more enjoyable. That's why I fell in love with it, and that's how I got invited on to join.
And we bash on it a lot, but we bash on it because we want it to be good. We love the show so much that we want good quality out of it. And you're going to hear a lot over the last couple of years. We don't feel like the quality's there. So we want it to be a good show. We want to see good acts. So we're going to criticize it. But as well, when we find something we love, you're going to hear it. We're going to talk a lot about it. So, Steven, you want to add anything into it?
Yeah, I mean, just hearing all you guys, you're correct in what you guys have had to say. And I mean, like I said, you what we get with this podcast is you're going to get our unfiltered opinions, and commenters. Commenters definitely one of those who gives unfiltered opinions. That's the reason why we love him for it. He gives his opinions of everything, and that's what we love him for it. And I mean, you're going to get your unfiltered opinions on acts. I mean, when the Mayas won, I remember that was a first pick in the draft when I was, I think that was my first or second draft with you guys, and they ended up winning the whole thing. Like that was my pick to win the whole season, and they ended up winning. And I was like, I would fight for this act because that's how much I love them. And even with Brent Street, like I particularly didn't like Brent Street when I first saw them in the audition. Then I hear Ryan on the podcast, and he made a really good point about this is how they're different than other dance groups. So you're going to hear a lot of different opinions, unfiltered opinions, and then some other fun stuff in between: basketball, politics, geography, all this fun stuff. So
Iowa State Fair,
it's true. So definitely come on and listen.
Yeah, I'm real big on history. I'm like kind of a small history buff, so I love talking about this old school AGT. So if you're not familiar with, if you're like Ryan, you're only familiar with going back to season 15 or 16. Listen to us, and you're going to hear a lot of season 1, 2, 4, all things from 15 years ago. And I want people to understand that are new to AGT today where the show was at one point and how we got here. And so when you kind of watch it, you understand, maybe you are only interested in the new stuff, and that's perfectly fine. We're going to talk about that, obviously. But if you're also curious about, well, where did this act come from, and who's this, or how does it compare to something that was on 15 years ago, we'll explain all that to you.
Yeah, and I mean, I still remember the very first act out of the very first season was Bobby Badfingers.
Yes.
Came on, and all basically he just snapped his fingers really fast. Probably can't do that now because maybe he has arthritis now. I don't know. But I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, that it's acts like that made this show so special. And to see what it's evolved to now, and Cody, you're right. We want the show to succeed. We want it to be better than what it is. We want, like I say, as a reporter, when I'm writing an article, I want my next article to be better than the one that I wrote before. Same thing with this show. I want next season to be 10 times better than what this season brought. In season 21, 22, so on and so on and so on. We want every season to be better. And it feels like the season has digressed from, 18, 19. It seems like the last two seasons really haven't been it. So I'm hoping 20 is where we kind of break the mold and get back to the old ways of AGT.
And the last thing, and I know a commenter would mention this if he was here, but come join us on our X and our social media communities. That's been one of the most fun additions to this podcast too, is that we don't just talk about it and then record it and then never talk to you all. We love going on and having these fun conversations live while the show's happening. And it's been really enjoyable for me to feel like there's like people out there even rooting me on for my fantasy league, which shouldn't really matter at all. But I've developed this friendship community that's out there, and we love that type of stuff. So it's given me something I've always wanted. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that wants a similar thing. So come join us in those conversations.
All righty, guys. So, guys, if you missed an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast, visit our channels on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, Spotify, and Spreaker. Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOB, Are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOB, And guys, what my take on how Richard got to win AGT and all my interviews over the years with the AGT acts, including including season 16 interviews where I got comments from Simon, Howie, Heidi, and Terry. Visit jakes-shake.com. Once again, jakes-shake.com. Stephen, Cody, Ryan, thank you so much for joining me and talking all things AGT. Please, let's come on, talk pre-20 and talk and do this again after season 20.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
And guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great one, everybody. Good.